Well, we're an eighth of the way through the MLB season, and both New York teams suck. The Mets have lost
Really
eight in a
bad.
row. The Yankees have lost 7 of their last 9, and it just doesn't look like it's getting any better for either team. So, Henry, take us away with the Mets. Obviously, you're the Mets fan, so you take us away.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so much wrong with the Mets right now. I'm not really sure what to even start talking about, but just a quick rundown. As you said, the Mets have lost 8 games in a row, going into a series at Wrigley with 2 of their 3 worst pitchers. So, real chance that could go into the double digits. They sit in last place in the National League East by 2 games. I think they're 5 or 6 games out of first. Not particularly close to a wild card spot already. I'm going to start with Francisco Lindor because, dude, what the hell is going on with that guy?
Yeah, it's not good.
He's started season slow at the plate. Basically every year he's been on the Mets. But this just feels different. I have never seen him this checked out of games. So many mental mistakes. He doesn't look like he wants to be there. He seems to have a feud with everybody on the team. I mean, he got 3 players kicked off the team last year, basically, because his communist wife didn't like them for their political opinions or something. And then it seems like he doesn't like Juan Soto. We don't know if he likes some of the new guys on the team. He's clearly not leading them as the captain that he's supposed to be. At some point, when you get worried about Francisco Lindor, when you start thinking about moving in the direction of other players on the team, because they picked Lindor, they picked keeping him happy over 3 of their best offensive players. And, if it's really true that he is a feud with Juan Soto, and you have to pick between the two, I'm going to pick the guy that's going to have a 950 OPS for the next 10 years over the commie.
Yeah, I would definitely pick Juan Soto over Francisco Lindor. The craziest thing to me is that I saw a stat that if they lose tomorrow against the Cubs, it would be a 9-game losing streak then. Do you know the last time the Mets have had a 9-game losing streak in a season?
I'm going to guess that it was – I'm going to go 2018 is my guess.
Way before.
Before 2018.
Way before.
Oof. 2012?
Way before.
When is it?
2004.
Really?
2004.
Wow.
2004 is the last time.
I never guessed. I wasn't even given the bad teams I was alive for enough.
I know. Never happened under those teams.
Unreal.
Think of all the teams with Robert Gazelman and all those teams.
Robert Gazelman.
You think of all those bad Mets teams, in the late 2010s.
There were a ton.
And none of them did it. And this team could do it 20 games into a season. They can do what hasn't been done since 2004, which is 22 seasons ago. So that's the most astonishing thing to me right now, especially considering the expectations this team had coming in. Revamping the team.
You're supposed to be meant to win the division. I mean, it's that simple.
Pretty much. And they won 83 games last year. It's not like this team won 63 games. And then they said, okay, we revamped the whole team now. No, this team had a solid base at 83 wins. And they, it seemed like they got better. They improved. And so you expect 90-win season, or like you said, a division. And it hasn't, it's only been 20 games. Like I said, we're an eighth of the way through, and there are ebbs and flows to a season, but this is a really, really bad start to a season. Obviously, you said they're quite a bit back in the wild card in the division. There's time to make that up. That's not, I wouldn't be worrying about the division and the wild card 20 games in, but it just makes your life more difficult. Yeah. And I think one thing, obviously, you mentioned Lindor, but Mendoza's bullpen management has been horrible. Devin Williams.
Some of the worst I've seen in my life as a Mets fan.
It's really
funny you bring up Carlos Mendoza because obviously you're right. It's 20 games in. Am I in full panic mode? Season's over. Do I think the Mets are screwed? No, if Carlos Mendoza's gone soon. Because if he stays around, he's so unprepared as a manager to make like any tough decision. And we saw it through basically the last 100 games of last season. We saw it in the first half of 2024. And you could say, well, he was really good in the second half of 2024, first half of 2025. But the way I see it is like, 2024, anyone's going to be able to manage a team when you're getting guys like Mark Vientos and Jose Iglesias playing like all-stars. Last year, you had bullpen got Max Kranick, Huascar Barazaban, Ryan Stanek, Reed Garrett pitching the ERAs under 2. Like, there's no tough bullpen decision when everyone's just pitching like that, and it doesn't even matter who you go to. And then when like Edwin Diaz is the worst guy in the bullpen for the first 60 games last year. You knew that wasn't going to happen. Inevitably, the guys that you'd expect to not be as good started pitching worse. Edwin Diaz ended up being elite. And when he actually had to make decisions of when to go to your guys that are good and when to go to your guys that are not, he seems to make the wrong decision every time. And it's carried over into this year. Devin Williams blew up yesterday because he hasn't pitched in 10 days. In 10 games, you couldn't find a game to get him into. Like, you've been losing most of them because it's an 8-game losing streak. You couldn't find a close game. You couldn't just say, like, screw it. He hasn't pitched in a while. You gotta throw him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when it was, a couple of days ago. It was a 1-0 game against Oakland. And he threw in, who did he put in instead of Williams?
Pushed Tobias Myers. He would try to go with
Myers, right. He kept him
in.
He kept him going for a third inning. Right. I was wondering, was it Richard Lovelady who Frank the Tank
got DFA today.
I know. Well, he got traded to the Nats.
Traded, whatever, for cash.
Yeah, same for thing. Cash. Well, listen, I thought when I first saw he got traded, I thought it was going to be for like skid marked underwear or something like that. You know, maybe a bag of chips, maybe, or like
would be too much
when he traded. In Moneyball, when he traded for like a vending machine, right, that the players didn't have to pay for or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought it might have been something like that. But they got some money out of it at least. But yeah, Mendoza it is in the last like 100 games, he's been a bad manager. And this team has been a bad team too. If you look at I believe it is just the last 100 games of the season, not counting the last couple games. I saw something that they were the 5th worst team in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So they're up there with the White Sox and like the Angels, and that is not a place where a team with a payroll of over $300 million should be. That just can't be possible.
Absolutely not.
Is it David Stearns and his roster construction? Partly, possibly. We were talking.
It's part of it. I mean,
Jorge Polanco over Pete Alonso is probably a bad move. Marcus Semien for Brandon Nimmo is probably a bad move.
Horrible trade.
And it also, like, this team still has talent on it, though. Like,
of course. I mean, they got Bo Bichette. You got Luis Robert has been a very pleasant surprise so far.
Yes, he's been very good.
Alvarez is playing like a top 5 catcher in the league right now. Still.
Yeah. So it can't just be roster construction. Some of it has to fall on the manager too. I see a lot of people on Twitter and, on different social media platforms saying, "Oh, David Stearns, fire David Stearns." Fair. There's fair criticism there too, but some of the critics have to go towards Carlos Mendoza as well. I mean, it has been exactly whether it's bullpen management or lineup construction, it has been a how-to on how to manage a baseball team badly and how to lose 100 games or how to not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. And again, like we said, we're 20 games in. But the cause for concern is it's just a carryover from 2025. I mean, it's like it never ended. And it's just a carryover from how they finished for the last 100 games of a season. I mean, we're not talking about they built on their 45-24 start and won 95 games and made the playoffs and made the NLCS. And then it's like, oh, they just had a bad 20 games to start the year. Like, then there's really nothing to panic about. But an epic collapse last year. I mean, we're talking about a team that was 45-24, and then they lost 8 in a row, got back to 61-43, and then from there went 22-36 to end the season.
Yeah.
With losses like this, where they either can't hit or the bullpen's terrible, or they're not throwing strikes. I mean, defensive mistake. My God, that was a huge thing to end last year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole reason they trade Pete Alonso, or they get rid of Pete Alonso. They trade Brandon Nimmo because the run prevention. And then
Right.
Mendoza's solution is to, on a regular basis, have two infielders play the outfield. And then it doesn't help when Francisco Lindor just forgets how to play shortstop.
Yeah. Or forget how many outs there
And
are.
like,
Or
I mean, Mark Vientos at first, like, are we serious? Run prevention? Mark Vientos in the field is not run
well,
prevention.
Bo Bichette at third base too.
Bo Bichette at
He was a
third.
bad shortstop, and obviously
Why would he be good
shortstop.
at third? I mean, my thing, I was always like, have him play second. Second base is a synonym for shortstop that's bad at shortstop.
Gleyber
And
Torres
then
did it.
don't trade for Marcus Semien, and you just have Nimmo DH if you're that worried about the defense.
Yep.
And then just keep Pete Alonso. He's the one who was actually a first baseman. I think you can live with a few bad throws a year for 35 home runs, especially because he was so good at like picking the ball out of the dirt. He was sure-handed. He just couldn't throw. Like, listen, how often do first basemen really need to make good throws? It's not that often. You can handle a few bad throws a year. So the point, it's just a carryover from 2025. It's like it never ended. And I get Mendoza was the manager when the team was playing well. But again, I truly believe the only reason he's still here is because Mark Vientos had an unreal playoff performance, and Pete Alonso took the biggest swing, arguably in Mets history, and Mendoza just happened to be the manager when that was happening. I think if that didn't happen, he would have been gone. He would have been fired after last year.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if they lose that wild card game or series, whatever it is now, to Milwaukee, he probably isn't here. I mean, he wins that. He wins the NLDS, and they kind of put up somewhat of a fight against the Dodgers, although really nobody put up a fight against them that year. And yeah, that's what's propelled him, I think. And we can look at across town. What I've always said, we can switch to the Yankees now, is Aaron Boone would never be the Yankee manager if he hadn't hit that home run in 2003 to send them to the World Series.
Right.
So
yeah.
we can talk about one swing of the bat being the reason a guy is a manager in New York right now. So let's pivot to the Yankees. Lost 7 of their last 9, as we mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
Offense looks awful. And that's the big problem, is because although, right, we talked about when we did our article, like previewing the season, they were first in runs scored last year.
Yeah.
So clearly we know this team can hit. We know this team can hit the baseball. They have a 3-time MVP. They have 2 other former MVPs. Obviously, they're not at what they were when they were MVPs, but still former MVPs. You have a rising star in Ben Rice, and Trent Grisham had an unbelievable year and has gotten off to a slow start. But that's what's really concerning, is that 6 through 9 in the order. It's the Jazz Chisholm, Jose Caballero, Austin Wells, Ryan McMahon.
Yeah, they're just automatic outs right now.
Yeah, the second they get up to the plate, I'm like, okay, the inning's over. That's it.
Yeah, I mean,
if Jazz Chisholm starts off the inning, you can turn it off. You can turn off the inning and come back. No, so you can turn off the inning and come back when the top of the order's up. Honestly, that's how it feels right now. And that's a huge problem for a team that ran it back. That's another thing. This isn't a team like the Mets where it's a complete overhaul. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can give them some time because it's a completely new roster pretty much, besides a couple of key pieces. This is the exact same roster. Literally the exact same roster that you got knocked out of the playoffs against Toronto with. Mm-hmm. The same one, besides Volpe for Caballero, but Caballero was already on the roster last year and had played in some big games and had actually taken Volpe's spot at points last year after they traded for him from Tampa Bay. So this is the same roster. So if this fails, there's like Brian Cashman you can't not fault him by saying, well, you know what, he tried. He tried to change it up.
They did nothing. Yeah.
He didn't try to do anything different. Mm-hmm. He banked on the fact, okay, this was the best offensive baseball last year. And it's it's a fair move to make.
Right. And you're getting Garrett Cole back, Carlos Rodon.
Right.
You're treating those as your big moves. I think a
Exactly.
difference, though, between the Mets and Yankees in this situation is, I mean, the Yankees are lucky that the other teams in their division have gotten off to a slow start, but that doesn't change the fact this is the best division in baseball, not even close. So there's really
Right.
way less room for error, in my opinion, if you're the Yankees, because these other teams will figure it out. I mean, the Red Sox will heat up.
You would think.
Blue
I mean,
Jays
you
will
would
heat
think.
up. The Orioles will probably heat up. I mean, the Rays are in first place right now. I mean, so
I feel like they'll cool
they'll
down.
cool
I would
off.
say, but yeah,
But the point is they're lucky that the other teams have also started slow.
yeah,
I don't know.
no,
It's
for
like the
sure.
flu spreading around the AL East. But
Yeah,
it's the best division in baseball. There's by far the biggest collection of talent in that division.
hmm
So there's less time to fix it. You got to fix it now. But if
agreed.
you're the Yankees,
Absolutely.
if you can get going before the other team, so you'll be just fine. Again, you're getting Colin Rodon back, although the starting pitching hasn't even been like the biggest concern.
No, I mean Freed has been fine.
Um,
Besides today, he was a little shaky today, but
right.
Schlittler's
That'll
been
happen.
good.
Yeah.
Will Warren has been okay. He's been what we need from Will Warren. Weathers and Heel have struggled, but like you said, you get Colin Rodon back, and all of a sudden, that's a pretty darn good
Right.
starting five rotation.
Yeah.
That
you just
one of the better
you
ones.
have to go acquire some bullpen arms. I mean, losing
Or
Devin Williams and Luke Weaver and not really replacing them might not have been the best idea.
no, it was not the best idea. That's what we said. That was the biggest problem was they
Yeah,
didn't
I
go
mean, they
after
didn't. Yeah,
bullpen pieces. But you have guys in the minor leagues right now. Elmer Rodriguez is their third best prospect. He's got
right.
a
Yeah,
1.15 ERA. Call him up.
should be up.
Throw him in the pen.
I mean, tomorrow, honestly, but very soon at least.
Carlos LaGrange, who throws 102 miles an hour. You don't think that would work in the bullpen?
I
Oh
think
well, we
it'd
don't
be
want to
just fine.
stunt his. We don't want to stunt his growth and rotation. Then put him in the rotation. Heel and Weathers have stunk. Put them in the bullpen then. You don't want to mess up his growth or whatever. I don't
Right,
give a
yeah.
crap. I don't care. He throws 102 miles an hour. He's elite. He was insane in spring training. He's been insane in AAA to start the season. Call him up. I don't care.
You're trying to win games.
You're
That's
trying
the
to
main thing. So you're not a
exactly.
rebuilding team when you don't care if you lose. So there's no need to rush guys. Like
no, this is
if you think a guy is going to be better than someone on your major league roster, they should be on your major league roster, no matter how young they are or how not ready you think they might be. If they're going to be better than someone that's starting,
right?
Like maybe don't call up someone to be a bench bat, but like if you think they are going to be better than a starter, they should be on the team, especially if that team has World Series aspirations. So
absolutely, like
you got to give them a shot.
This window is closing. Judge is getting to his mid to late 30s.
Getting any younger.
Garrett Cole's not getting any younger. Looks like we're headed for a lockout next year. So you're going to lose a whole season of Judge and Cole.
Yeah, I mean the Dodgers
at the end
are
of their
prime.
primes.
So yeah,
right. I mean, it seems like a lockout is coming. So you're going to lose those two guys. You're going to lose those two guys for a year then, and along with the whole roster. Obviously, they're going to age a year. But those are the two guys who are most important. And then you have Stanton too, who's obviously very important, who's only getting older as well. So this team is not getting any younger. You have a couple of young guys, like I mentioned, Ben Rice, and you have Cam Schlittler. It's not like the future is,
No, it's not dull. I mean,
it's not doom
you
and
arguably
gloom,
have,
but
I mean, Ben Rice isn't a rookie, but Cam Schlittler's like, I don't know, second, third best young pitcher in the league, and then Ben Rice is just one of the best hitters in the league.
Just hitters
in
the league. He's been the best hitter in OPS this year, right? So the time, like you were saying with the AL East, but I don't even think you don't even have to make it that small. The time for winning a World Series or the time for winning another pennant is now. This is it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like you said, if you have someone who you think is going to be better than Luis Heel or Paul Blackburn or Jake Bird, I know they just demoted him and they brought up Angel Chivili and he allowed a 700,000-foot home run to Mike Trout. Like, clearly he's going to be better than these guys.
Of course. Almost anyone that throws 100 is going to be better than Paul Blackburn.
Anyone on this planet can be better than them. That's how bad they've been. The bullpen has been so bad. Give me a college pitcher right now. I don't care. I don't care who it is. Give me anybody over these guys. They stink. Give me anybody. Especially guys who throw 102 miles an hour. That's insane. That's insane. Call them up. Call them up, Brian.
I completely agree. I think one
But I digress.
promising sign with the Yankees compared to the Mets is the players that have been bad for them are actually bad players. Well, with the Mets, it seems like it's the guys you would expect to be good have been the reasons they're losing these games.
Right,
Starting with
which I would say can also go both ways.
yeah, no, true.
Like the good play, like if you like Grisham and Chisholm have struggled, like you would expect them to get going at some time. They're good
Yeah.
MLB players. But Austin Wells and Ryan McMahon and even Caballero, or when Volpe comes back and takes his spot, we know what those guys are. We know they're not
going to heat up.
They're great defensively. They're good defensive. Caballero is a great guy to have on the base paths, but they're not gonna hit. They're not gonna not gonna hit 20. Like these are not good MLB hitters.
Right.
But like Francisco Lindor, we know is a very, very good MLB hitter.
Should be.
When Juan Soto comes back and is healthy.
I mean, Soto was the best hitter in the line.
I know, but he's been injured, so now when he comes back, you would think he'll be good, and
I would fully expect him to.
So, I think with the Yankees, you're banking on players who maybe haven't been the best hitters, but are good defensively. So you're like, they can just get hot, and they can just have that that big season or that big jump we're looking for. Then we got something cooking along with their plus defense like McMahon and Wells. So that's right. I think that's the problem with you can look at it both ways. Okay, well, we know these guys weren't supposed to hit, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
We're losing games, so it kind of is a big deal.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I will say, I think, at least in the Angels series, the offense from the Yankees looked a little better. I mean, there's nothing like a series against the Angels to get an offense going. I think the bullpen is the main problem with them.
For sure.
That's where there's almost no one you can look to that you even expect to be good this year later on.
Right.
That's not in AAA, as you said earlier.
Right. Yeah.
So, the offense, Judge is starting to heat up. He'll be even better.
Oh, he's
going to hit 300 with 55 home runs again. Probably win MVP.
Yeah.
Bellinger will probably be even better. And Stanton's still amazing.
Yeah.
Ben Rice, not really going to slow down much, I don't think. So, I think the offense will be fine. Bullpen is a concern. You're going to make a move at the deadline, or you're hopefully going to call somebody up. But obviously, the trade deadline is miles away, and Brian Cashman doesn't seem eager to trust his young guys, even though the young guy was the man who won you the series against the Red Sox last year. So, doesn't make much sense to me. But
they called Cam Schlittler up last year, kind of just out of necessity. A couple guys got hurt, and it was we need some juice. This team is kind of floundering, and we need some juice, or we might just they were going for the division. Obviously, it's we might not win the division. Obviously, they didn't end up winning the division. They tied it, but lost the tiebreaker. So that was they needed juice, and Cam Schlittler was there, and like you said, he won us a series against Boston. So maybe Carlos LaGrange is that. Maybe Elmer Rodriguez is that. I don't know.
And especially with pitchers, I think there's more of an argument that young batters take time to really get going.
Right.
I think it's becoming more and more rare that you call up a batter and they're immediately like Kevin McGonigal or Juan Soto when he got called up. But pitchers, I think, are way more likely to be good right away. I mean, there were Mets fans that were freaking out about Nolan McLean wasn't ready for the majors. And I mean, he's a top 20 pitcher in the league already.
Yeah, he's been unbelievable.
Schlittler's the same.
If you have good stuff, you have good stuff.
You're going to be fine. Yeah. So I think pitchers are just more MLB ready in general, and you can call them up and they'll be fine.
Right. Agreed. 100%.
And if they don't, the bullpen's going to continue to be terrible until the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And then
who knows where they're going to be? Again, with the AL East, they might be in third or fourth if the bullpen keeps blowing games. So
yeah. And then you're going to continue to be 2-7 in your last 9 games, and
there you go.
You can't win a series against the Angels, and you get swept by 10. These are losses that just can't happen.
Yeah. But every game matters. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I say.
Both teams found this out last year.
Yeah.
Yankees lost the division by a game. Mets missed the playoffs by a game. So
yeah.
You could say it's early in April, and April's not indicative of how they're going to finish the season.
Absolutely.
But you can look back on games in April, and you're like, man, the Yankees didn't blow that game in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets could hit. Or if they didn't send Francisco Lindor in that Pirates game to the plate,
Yeah.
You can point to these games still. If it's a
Yep.
1 or 2 game difference, these are games you point to. And you're like, how did you lose that game?
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of those games for both the Yankees and the Mets last year. The Yankees were up like
Oh my
6-0 late against the Marlins one game,
Yes.
and they brought in Jake.
We were watching
Gardner
that
through it.
together. That was
Yes, we were watching. I mean, that was one of those games. I was like,
bullpen
how did you just lose that
imploded
game?
in that game. All the
Like-
new guys were terrible.
Yeah, like it was one of those like, how the hell did you lose that game? So
Yeah.
you're 100% right. Like every game matters the same. Game one matters the same as game 162.
Yeah. I think that's a big mix-up people have. Is how you're playing in April indicative of how you're going to finish the season, how you're going to look at the end, how you go into the playoffs? No. I can point to so many examples of the Mets. The reason I picked 2018 was their 9-game losing streak years because they started 13-1 and finished 15 games under. So I figured that would have been a year where they had one. Point is, you could start great and finish poorly, vice versa. But if you end up losing a close race, you can still point to games in April that you should have won. They all matter.
Absolutely.
Having an 8-game losing streak is unacceptable no matter what.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're not panicking because you think, oh, like the season is just over. They're gonna be bad the whole year. But you could be panicking because what if you miss the playoffs by a game again? Hey, maybe you don't lose 8 games in a row to the worst teams ever.
Yeah.
Maybe don't lose 7 out of 9 and not worry about your bullpen until 100 games into the season, like the Yankees seem keen on doing.
Yep. Both teams have big problems. I'm going to say that.
Major problems.
Major problems. Are they fixable? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Of course. It's a long season.
It's a very long season. It's the longest season in sports. So there's time. There's time for both teams. We're not panicking yet. Yet is the key word.
Yeah.
Because they keep losing.
Actually, speak for yourself. I'm panicking as long as Carlos Mendoza is at. I stand by that statement. If he isn't gone soon, the Mets will miss the playoffs. They will go, if he's the manager the whole year, they will win 75 games. That's my prediction.
Okay,
he's that incompetent, I think.
Carlos Mendoza is so incompetent that the Mets will only win 75 games. Okay. You know what? I think that's a perfect way to end it. Carlos Mendoza, if Carlos Mendoza is still is the manager of the Mets for the entire season, the Mets will only win 75 games. Are you willing to stick with that? If they end up winning like 95 games, will you come on here and say, hey, hand up, I was wrong?
I will, but if they win 95 games, it'll be because Carlos Mendoza was fired. And if it's 95, it probably means he was fired after the Cubs series, which we can come back to. But I'll make that bet. If they win 95 games, Carlos Mendoza, I'll come back on, put my hand up, and say I'm an idiot.
Okay.
But I don't think that's going to happen because he's not going to get ridiculous production out of terrible baseball players like he did when they win games under him. I could manage a team where Mark Vientos hits 7 home runs in the playoffs. Mark Vientos hit 7 home runs in the playoffs. Max Kranick pitched to like a 1.15 ERA through 30 innings last year. Like, no wonder they were winning games.
Yeah, I mean, but
it doesn't seem that's going to happen this year. So once again, if Carlos Mendoza finishes the entire season as the manager of the Mets, they will not win more than 75 games.
There you have it, folks.